I thought I would read Psalm 2 in Hebrew and do a little bit of Hebrew grammar in parts of it, and then look at the New Testament in terms of how the New Testament applies Psalm 2 to Christ. It's a psalm of coronation. It's the coronation of an Israeli king at the time. And we're not exactly sure which king is being coronated, but it was written to celebrate the coronation day. And we have several movements to this psalm. We begin in the first three verses. Lama rakishu goyim, ule umim yegurik, yatzavu malachei eretz verozanim nosadu yachad, al Adonai ve'al Mashicho, Ninateka et Mosrotemo, Menashlicha Mimenu Avutemo. Why are the nations in an uproar? And why do the peoples meditate or mutter a vain thing? The kings of the earth station themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed one. Let us break their bands asunder. Let us cast their cords from us. Notice a little bit of the grammar here. We have this revolt going on. We're not exactly sure when this happened. In Jewish interpretation, one thought was that it happened with David in connection with 2 Samuel 5:17, which reads, when the Pharisees heard that David was anointed king over Israel, all the Pharisees went up to seek David. And that's possible. Even in Jewish interpretation, they have understood this as a messianic psalm. And certainly in the New Testament, there is that application. So, just a few words of grammar here. Why are the nations raging and the peoples yegu-ri? Yegu is from the root haga, and it means to mumble under the breath. And it's a cow imperfect third common plural from the root haga, or third masculine plural. So they're muttering this vain thing. And then we're told the kings of the earth station themselves. Yatsavu. Notice yatsav means to station oneself in opposition. And here we have a hitpael, imperfect, a third person plural, from yatsav. So the kings of the earth are stationing themselves, but ozanim knows to do yachad, and the rulers are taking counsel together. And notice yasad is the root here, and here we have a reciprocal use of the nifal stem. They're taking counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed one. It is interesting that the anointed one, Mashiach, in the Septuagint is translated Christan autu, against his Christ. And notice what they're saying. Nenatika at the Mosrotemo. Let us break their bands asunder. Nenatika is from the root natak, to break apart or break asunder. This is a cohortative. Notice it's a PL. It has a shava followed by a pathak, doubling of the middle radical in the tav. And so let us break their bands asunder. Notice we have this intensive idea here in the first person plural of natak, and let us cast v'nashlicha mimenu avotemo. Let us cause to cast their cords from us. And notice shalak means to cast away. And here we have a first common plural, but it's a hiphil stem. Let us cause to cast. Notice under the noon you have a pathak followed by a hirik yod between the lamet and the kaf. So let us cast away their cords from us. In New Testament application, this is applied to Christ in the book of Acts, chapter 4, where it is quoted, "Why do the nations rage and the peoples meditate a vain thing? The kings of the earth station themselves and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his Christ." And of a truth, the book of Acts says, "They were gathered together in that city against your holy child Jesus, whom you anointed, Herod and Pontius Pilate, with the Gentiles and peoples of Israel, to do whatsoever your hand and your will had predetermined to occur." And so the first application in the New Testament has to do with Calvary, with the cross, and the revolt going on there. But then God is sitting in heaven and he has it all under control. Notice verses 4 to 6. Yoshev Bashemayim Yischak, Adonai Yolag Lamo, Aj Deber Alemu Ve'apo, Uvacharono Yevahalemo. Va'ani Nasakti Malki Al Sion Har Kodshi. Notice here, the one who sits in the heavens will laugh. The Lord will jeer at them. Here we have God sitting in heaven, having it all under control. Then he will speak unto them in his anger, and he will terrify them in his wrath. And what is he going to say? But I have installed my king upon Zion, my holy mountain. Notice the Lord is just sitting and not at all upset in the sense that things are out of control. He's determined that his king is going to reign from Zion. And so he speaks while they are whispering revolt. He speaks. And a couple interesting grammatical points here. Yoshev is the cow active participle masculine singular from Yashav, and Yedaber, then he will speak, is the PO stem, a PO imperfect, third masculine singular from Davar, and then basically I have installed my king upon Zion, my holy mountain. So what the text is saying here is that God is determined that his king will reign, and he derides their plot to overturn what he has said would happen. This leads us then to the king himself speaking. Notice it says in verse 7, Asapra el chok, Adonai amar elai beniyata, ani hayom yeliticha, she'al mimeni ve'etana goyim nachalatecha, v'ahuzatecha afse aretz. Teroim b'shevet barzel kikli yotzer tenapatzem. Notice in verse 7, the king now speaks. I will declare the decree. And the Lord said to me, you are my son. I today have begotten you. All you have to do is ask from me, and I will give you the nations for your inheritance and the uttermost parts of the earth for your possession. You will, probably we could translate this, crush them or break them with an iron rod as vessels of a potter. You will dash them to pieces. Notice the king speaking here about what the Lord has said about him. And we begin with Asapra, I will declare, or let me declare. Notice here the root is safar, to declare. We have a PO stem, PO imperfect, first common singular from Safar. Notice we have the hurried pathak, chatev pathak, followed by the pathak, doubling of the middle radical, showing that we're looking at a PL stem. So I will declare the decree. We could almost understand this. Let me declare the decree. The Lord said unto me, Beniata, my son, you are. And then we have the phrase, Ani hayom yeliticha. This day I have given birth to you. The day of birthing here was the coronation day. And it's interesting in the ancient Near East, when a king was coronated, it's as though that's the day that the Lord is giving birth to the king. We find this in, for example, an Ugaritic text describes that idea where a king is being coronated, and it's the language that's used is birthing language. And it's the same thing here. And so we look at this, and all you have to do is ask from me, and I'll give you the nations for your inheritance, the uttermost parts of the earth for your possession. It is interesting, in the New Testament, Paul applied this to Christ and the resurrection. We find this, for example, in Acts chapter 13. In a sermon that Paul was preaching, he quotes from this very text in verse 33. And he said in the second psalm, it actually teaches about the resurrection of Christ. And he quotes it, you are my son, this day have I begotten you. And he goes on to say, and because he raised him from the dead, he is no longer to return again unto corruption. And he goes on to quote Isaiah and also Psalm 16, driving home the point of the resurrection of Christ. So really, when we look at this great text, Paul is saying the coronation day is the resurrection, when Christ arose again. But then we go on, and all you have to do is ask from me, and I'll give you the nations for your inheritance, the uttermost parts of the earth for your possession. All you have to do is ask, and everything will be given to you, the nations for your inheritance. And you will break them with an iron scepter, and as vessels of a potter you will dash them to pieces. By the way, in Hebrews, Jesus is heir of all things, and in Revelation 19, he comes back to shepherd the nations with an iron scepter. It's interesting, the Hebrew teroaim here, in the way it's pointed in the Masoretic text, would read, you shall crush them. They were looking at a double ayin form, ra'ah, with double ayin. However, in the Septuagint, it seemingly would have been read as tir'aim, which would look at you will shepherd them, because the Septuagint has poimaines, or from poimaino to shepherd. And basically, that would be a different root. It would be a lamed hey root, ra'ah. So you will shepherd them with an iron scepter. And that's the translation that John gives in Revelation 20 or 19, I should say, when Christ returns as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. It reads that he will shepherd the nations with an iron scepter, fulfilling this great prophecy. So we look at the cross in New Testament, Acts 4. We look at the resurrection, coronation day, Acts 13. We look at being heir of all things, Hebrews 1. And then Revelation 19, at his return as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And so the psalmist then concludes by saying, Va'ata melachim haskilu, and now kings, be wise. Hivasru shofetei aretz, ivdu et Adonai beyira vegilu beradah. Nashku var penya anof tovadu derek ki yevar kimata po ashrei kol Jose vo. Notice he says, now kings, cool the rebellion and be wise. Notice sakal means to be wise. This is a hifil imperative, second person plural from sakal. Notice the hey gives it away with a pathak followed by a hirik yod, a vowel pattern. Be wise and be admonished. This is from Yasad. Notice here we have a nifal imperative, second person plural, from Yasad, which historically would have been a pei vav verb, vasad. And here we have the hey prefix followed by the doubling of the vav, historically being hin vasru, where the noon of the nifal through a progressive, can I say, assimilation, has gone into the vav, causing the doubling. And we have an a vowel, a comet, so we have an I-A vowel pattern indicative of a nifal stem. Here, back to back, we have a hifal stem in has kilu with an AI vowel pattern, and the nifal imperative has an IA vowel pattern in hivasru. So be admonished, judges of the earth, serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. In other words, be humbled, stop the rebellion, and serve the Lord with fear. Notice avad means to serve. If do, a cow imperative here, second person plural. So serve the Lord with fear and rejoice, another imperative, cow imperative, with trembling. Nashku varu, kiss the Son. Some want to translate this as something like pay homage to the Son in purity, and or do homage in purity. And var can mean purity. However, it can also refer to son. A rare usage occurs of var as son in the book of Mashlei, or the Proverbs, chapter 30, but it also can be an Aramaic word, var, and put here for emphasis. Kiss the var, kiss the Son, lest he be angry and you perish in the way when his wrath is suddenly kindled. Happy, Ashrei kol chosevo, happy are all they that take refuge in him. So again, he concludes by encouraging them to bow down and kiss the Son, recognizing his kingship and authority, and stop the revolt. So this is a beautiful psalm. It looks at the coronation day of an Israeli king, but I believe it has its final application in New Testament theology to Jesus Christ. It's like a mini Christology, moving from the cross to the coronation at the resurrection, being heir of all things following that, and then looking at his second advent when Christ will return to shepherd the nations with an iron scepter. What a beautiful, beautiful messianic, I believe, text we have here in Psalm 2.